I think actually some people just honk at me because I'm driving a Prius. Like I'm going the speed limit.
They're right up on your bumper honking at you, appreciating your Prius is what they're really doing.
Oh, you think that's what it is?
No, I don't.
Welcome to Driving Change, where we go for a ride with leading technology executives and dig deep into their beliefs, habits, routines, and influences. On this episode, we visit with Tom Butterfield, CIO of TCF Financial, and talk about his role as CIO, evolution versus transformation, recruiting tech talent, and advice for up-and-coming tech leaders.
Hey Jeff, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm excited for a little Jeff Martin car karaoke.
So, let's start with your current role. Currently the CIO of TCF, is it Financial?
TCF Financial, yes.
Okay, and what is your role there?
Well,
CIO?
I've been there about a year.
Okay.
And TCF Financial is a $20 billion bank, but it is a combination of a bank, which is a regional bank, and a national set of lending businesses, specialty lending businesses. So basically my job is enterprise CIO. I manage all of the technology across all the different lines of businesses, which is the core bank side, as well as the many disparate lending businesses that we've built or acquired over the years.
Okay. And how do you define the role of CIO?
That's a great question. The core part of it obviously is accountability for the technology, and it's both the infrastructure that's in place and the operations and successful stability of what's there. But I think more than ever before, the role of CIO is as much about strategy and how technology enables the business goals and helps set not only enablement of existing goals, but new directions and new possibilities that are out there.
You're a tech leader at Deluxe and at Target, and now at TCF.
Right.
How have you seen the role of the CIO or tech leadership in general kind of change over those years?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll draw from I think examples beyond what I've been part of and what I've seen.
Sure.
I actually think the role of the CIO evolves as the ability of the particular CIO allows it to evolve, if I can say it that way.
Okay.
There are plenty of CEOs that I know and that I've talked with that don't see the role of CIO broader than what they've experienced and what they see it to be. A cost center manager might be a good example of that.
Yep.
Somebody who leads a many $million-dollar IT organization for the purpose of minimizing the cost structure is a different CIO than somebody who's there as a strategist to help the business understand what can be done.
So kind of a maintenance CIO versus
a
strategy, vision, looking forward.
And I think more and more, so the evolution from my time with Deluxe to United Health for a period of time at Ingenix to Target to TCF, you see more examples of CIOs that are playing that strategy role. You see more expectation. Technology itself, consumer technology, I think is driving so much into business strategy that you get that as a forcing function almost.
Yeah.
But I still think it's more of a reactive and opportunistic thing. I think it's less than the majority of business CEOs and business executives whose first inclination is to go to strategy thinking technologists as their CIO.
Okay.
And I think more often the reflexive reaction is to get my call center leader, to get somebody who's run a big data operation group. Large team management is the key role for CIO, but I think more and more companies are flipping on their expectation that way.
What makes a tech leader a great tech leader versus someone that's just competent in what they do?
I think what makes a great tech leader a great leader is the same kind of thing that would make a great HR or finance leader a great leader. There is a point of inflection, I think, in a leader career.
Yep.
With a little bit of what got you here won't get you there. It's the same premise as the Peter Principle. Oftentimes being very good at your discipline puts you into an authority role, but being good at leading people, understanding how to set priorities, understanding what your role is as a leader that's uniquely different from what it was as a technologist is what will make you a good CIO.
Looking back at your career, looking at like transformations and in IT and technology, there's always a lot of transformation going on, right? What would you say was like?
I quit using that term, by the way.
Oh, so what is the word that you use?
I don't know. It's journey now, maybe more
Journey?
than anything else. Transformation has such a profoundness to it that I think overcommits, because it is always a continuous journey.
Yeah.
It's always about evolving and shaping.
So what would you say was one of the largest evolutions you went through?
You know, it'd be hard not to. Well, I'm a year into the work we're doing at TCF, and a lot of what we're doing here is focused on leapfrogging. I hate to use that term, but we do use that term. I think there's some truth to it. But leapfrogging from a technology capability, from a sophistication point of view, and really leveraging technologies to win in business, not looking at it as a cost center. But that's a year into it, and there's a whole lot of steps left ahead.
Yep.
The one that probably was the biggest one I was part of, front to back, and it's still again a journey, was the Target evolution. I started there, I was there 8 years. So a couple of years ago is when I left. I started there 10 years ago, and like many IT organizations, I think it was a bit of a project-centric mindset. Right? So if I always talk to folks, if IT fundamentally breaks down into 3 major disciplines: plan, build, and run. Many IT shops are build, run shops where the plan is not front and center. And plan looks like things like not only technology strategies and reference architectures for future state architectures, but also that alignment of technology portfolio investment with business strategy. So much of the transformation that we all kind of held hands and did together at Target was building a muscle around planning, building an intentionality muscle, understanding how we wanted to invest our dollars every year from a new functionality point of view, having a multi-year view of where we wanted to take technology that was entirely derived from a multi-year view of where the business wanted to take capabilities.
Looking at the big journeys, what challenge kind of gave you some enlightenment that's made a difference in how you do your work today?
Many, and I think that there's some that are, I would call inside IT, and some that are about relationships and partnerships. So there's an awful lot of the journey of effectiveness, whether that's in a transformation or whether that's in a strategy that's an everyday execution strategy, that is about engendering the team to be on the same, engendering followership, getting everybody to be on the same page about the common goals we have. When you're doing transformation, usually that's a harder thing to do because you have people working under paradigms that you're trying to say aren't right anymore. So you have a lot of convincing to do. You know, for me, probably some of my biggest learnings are how important it is to get the people aspects, the hearts and the minds aligned, even before you get the strategies and the technologies and the processes aligned.
What's like one specific tactic that you've used to get alignment?
You know, I used to, earlier in my leadership career, I used to do a lot of telling. I used to do a lot of, here's the strategy, here's what we're going to do. And it's not as effective as if you ask people to give you the strategy. So you build a good team, they build a good team. You basically say, here's the direction I want to go. I actually have more behind that than I would let on. But you're engaging people's heads into the problem and letting them define the problem. And you have to be willing to accept something that's directly not as quite as precise as where you would have gone yourself, but you get more buy-in that way. So that's a big one, I think. Just getting everybody into problem solvers in the journey, not order takers in the journey.
That makes a lot of sense. Nobody wants to do something that someone just tells them to do, right?
Well,
but if you could be part of the solution and figure it out together.
there are folks who are most comfortable just telling me what to do. I mean, you run into that every once in a while. Just tell me what to do. I think, frankly, you got the wrong folks when you're dealing with that.
Yeah. So talking about talent and people, how do you find and recruit technologists? There's basically 0% unemployment.
I know.
There's not enough of these technologists out there. And when you're really looking for great technologists, I mean, you narrow down the field even more. What's some of the best ways that you found how to get great talent?
You know, there's I think in this field more than anything, there's an awful lot about the network and about the people that you know and about the experiences that you've had together. We talk a lot with the crew that I'm bringing in and the folks that I've inherited at TCF about shared experiences and the value of shared experiences. And I think what happens is there's a lot of self-selection that goes on in the IT world. Folks that are technologists that like what they're doing, that are excited by what they're doing, that want to take pride in the work that they're doing rather than just kind of check in on an 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock gig. They want to work with people who have the same mindset, and they want to work in an organization that appreciates the work they do. I still think there's as many corporate IT functions as not out there where the respect isn't as great as you would want it to be from the business. You don't get quite as much attention and appreciation for the work that you're doing. So there's a lot of self-selecting that I think goes on. So how do I recruit? We go back and we connect with folks that we've had a lot of success with in the past. Talk about the direction we're going, talk about the strategies, the skills that we need, kind of set a primer out for prime the pump a little bit on the exciting work to come. And many of them,
I think that's a key part is what's that work? What's it look like? And getting excited about it, right? Being able to tell that story, because that's the value to them.
Agreed. And because there's a shared experience, people have the trust that it's not just a story. People have a trust that this is a take two on something, that we're going to go do something again, that it's not the first time we've done this.
What is either an aha moment or a piece of advice that you received that's been very helpful for you?
So if I go throughout my journey, it's not necessarily, it's more a comment about leadership and not necessarily about IT leadership. But I share often when I'm in panels inside a company with emerging leaders some of my own learning stories. One of the more meaningful ones for me was early in my career when I had first been promoted to a leader of leader roles, kind of a director role. I remember a situation where I was in an elevator with other people in the elevator, but I was having a conversation with somebody. I didn't know anybody else in the elevator, and I was basically telling this person how I didn't agree with what was going on in the last meeting. And about an hour later, my boss calls me into his room and says, "I understand you don't agree with what we're doing."
Oh, no.
And there's a couple different learnings that came from that. One of them is, when you do get into a leadership role, it's an enterprise role, an enterprise leader role, people know who you are when you don't know who they are. And that sounds like a silly thing to say at this point in my career, but at that point in my career, it had never happened to me before. You know, people that I knew and people that knew me were the people that I had met. And so there's this notion of kind of influence as a leader and your accountability as a leader for what you say. And that's the other half of that equation, is you realize through an example like that you have an obligation. You have an obligation to lead for the whole. And we talk a lot about that when I talk with up and coming leaders, is your job. We've asked you to run this function. We've asked you to optimize this function. And sometimes optimizing this function for the betterment of the organization is to sub-optimize this so that the rest of the organization runs better, more efficiently, more effectively, whatever it ends up being. The really good enterprise leaders are the ones that get that, the ones that can kind of step out of their own role.
Excellent. Let's grab a coffee.
Perfect.
now that you're a CIO,
Yep.
what were some of the things that you would encourage other people to do if they're trying to strive to become and go in that direction? What are some of the things that you did right?
I think this notion of kind of embracing everybody to a common cause and letting everybody have value in the solution set is something you can do even before you become a CIO. And, it not only trains you for that thinking, but it engenders you to other people as you get into higher levels of leadership. And I think I did that reasonably okay. I think it didn't always work out early in my career that way, a lot more competition-oriented than inclusion-oriented.
Okay.
But over time you realize inclusion gets you a lot more progress than competition.
Yep. Are there any media outlets that you reference, magazines, things like that you reference to kind of stay on top of your role in technology?
No, I'm not nearly as good at this as I know I need to be. And I think that there's a couple of these forces that demand from our time that are hard to balance. Networking, staying connected is one. Staying fresh and current on technology is one. And then executing in the accountabilities we've got in our job. Those three alone are more than 100% of a person's time. And I notoriously focus on the last of those three and usually don't do as much service to myself on the networking or on the educating. I do think external conferences are a great way to get immersed, to dip yourself in the pool for a few days, come back out. I use Gartner periodically, symposium, because you just get a nice broad swath there. You get to understand, and then you pick and choose. You figure out what topic is the topic that smells like what's going on in my organization, feels like it's the right thing to be diving into, and go after it. And then beyond that, honestly, I use folks on my team. I mean, I hire people who are smarter than me, that are more knowledgeable than me, and I use them to educate me. And conversely, then I have to let them make decisions. I have to let them lead what they're accountable for, and stay out of the way. And the most I have to do is find a way to test their decision making, to test that they're being balanced in how they're looking at something, and not overly skewing it to a preference. But beyond that, I'm not smarter than them on technology, so I can't affirm their technical decision. I can only affirm their decision-making process.
Do you spend any time with associations or nonprofits?
Yes, I do. I've been involved with Second Harvest Heartland. For this will be my 7th year. I'm on the board of directors there. I actually was the board chair for a couple of years. My association there, it's been incredibly enriching for me, and I hope I brought some goodness to that organization as well. It does a wonderful set of work for the community in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and in Minnesota. But it was good because I got to be a business executive. It's funny, I spent, again, now almost 7 years there, and if you were to go in and ask fellow directors what Tom does for a profession, I think the majority of them wouldn't realize I'm a CIO.
Oh, really?
Because it's not that muscle I lead with. It's more of the strategy muscle and the business muscle.
Balance. How do you balance work, life, and personal?
I've always been relatively, I'll say good at that. I've always made that an intent of mine. And in fairness, I have not gone to organizations or left organizations where I didn't feel like that was a valued component of what it meant to be an asset there, an employee there. So I advocate that a lot with my team as well. The language that I basically use with myself and with my team is, I think every one of us works because we have to work, right? If we got hit by the lottery, I highly doubt we'll show up 2 weeks from now. But if we are going to work, we should have fun doing it. We should get something out of it, right? We should improve ourselves. We should get successes. We should get all the wonderful things that come from doing good things. And I think you can work hard for 50 hours a week and then feel comfortable that you worked hard for 50 hours a week. Not every project and not every job and not every month or calendar lets you do that, but generally speaking, if that's your focus, you're good to go.
I always look at it as work, family, and personal. On that personal side, I always like to ask this question is, what do you do to look for inspiration and thoughts and ideas for work, where do you go? What do you do? And then what I think is kind of the flip of that is what do you do or where do you go when you totally want to disconnect from your work?
Yeah, when I usually go into nature to totally disconnect, so whether it's a cabin or a beach in Florida, but I really do, I do think it's valuable for me and anybody who's a professional to disconnect. If you go spend a week in Florida, where I was last week, and you're constantly online, you're not disconnecting, you're not recharging, you're not doing yourself or your organization any good.
Yep.
And ironically, Jeff, what I would tell you is when I do go to those places, it is the place where I do get creative. I do get perspective, and I do get enough of a step back that I can challenge whether the current approach I'm taking is the right approach. So I come back with more insight by unplugging than by diving into other industries and other articles.
And that's what I find too, is that when I go on vacation, that's when I probably do my best work.
Yes.
Like the ideas come to me, the vision comes to me because I'm disconnected from everything. Then there's activities like for me, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, I know you do.
Where I can't think of work at all, and no vision's going to come out of that because it's in the moment. Do you have activities like that you do?
I do. I have been doing a little bit of training for a triathlon. I did one earlier in my life, and I was looking to do a half Ironman in the next year or so. So I put a lot of time on the seat riding. I work out at least once a day, and I'll run or I'll bike, and that is away time for me. You know, that is mentally completely away. That is hard work, hard energy, right? None unlike your jiu-jitsu. You're giving everything you got, and you're expending energy, and you're doing it with complete disconnect, and it helps refresh a lot. And I do mine in the morning.
Okay.
And because it gets your blood flowing, it gets your head going in the morning.
Yeah.
For the rest of the day.
So I have one last question for you.
Okay.
It's kind of a unique question. And the question is, for other tech leaders that are watching this, what one question would you have for them? What would you like to hear other tech leaders talk about?
If I don't look at it from a personal question point of view for them, if I look at it instead from a profession, I think the question that all of us as tech leaders need to get our head around is what is the changing nature and obligation of our roles as technology leaders, given how fast and how profound technology itself is changing. I can remember days, I'm old enough, I can remember days when literally the spreadsheet was the vehicle of only the finance organization. And not too many years ago, programming was the vehicle and the tool of only an IT team, and that doesn't exist anymore. So now as that evolves, what's the changing nature of IT leadership? I actually think IT domain shrinks, and our job becomes less to control things like we used to control, and more to enable things within formats and standards, to be smart enough, to think forward enough, to put out the hooks, to put out the connections and the standards and formats that allow people, and the tool sets that allow people to go do and go create, but to do it in a way that you don't create total chaos in the environment. And I think that's an intentional change, right? So as an IT leader, you have to really get your head around what does it mean to lead technology when it becomes a commodity and so pervasive of a capability.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Hey, this is Jeff Martin again. If you go to leadbychange.com, you can see this show and other shows. If you subscribe, you can get early access to new shows and also exclusive content. Thanks for watching.